You know, some people are just meant to be the support structure, not the skyscraper. They lay the foundation, but they can't touch the sky. Vincent said it from the stage of the Metropolis Architecture Guild Gala, the Innovator of the Year award gleaming in his hand. The spotlight was a clean, surgical white, catching the polish on his $1,000 shoes as he looked out at a sea of adoring faces. He was talking about me. I stood near the back, by the bar, the ice in my glass perfectly still. He'll see the sky fall soon enough, I thought. We met in architecture school, bonded by a shared exhaustion and a mutual worship of sustainable design. I was the quiet one, the one who could spend 48 straight hours refining a structural load calculation until it was perfect. Vincent was the voice. He could sell a city council on a green roof in a hurricane, his charisma a gravitational force that pulled opportunities into our orbit. Our first real success was a shared project, a cantilevered library design. We stayed up for 3 days, fueled by stale coffee and a single bag of pretzels, building the model piece by agonizing piece. When we won second place, Vincent lifted me off the ground in a hug that smelled like wood glue and victory. It felt like we were a complete entity. The first red flag was so small I barely registered it. Presenting that same project to a panel of professors, Vincent took sole credit for the cross-laminated timber concept, an idea I'd fought for, sketched out on a dozen napkins at 3 a.m. When I mentioned it later, he just laughed it off. Theo, you know I'm better with the words. We're a team. It's all for the team, and I believed him. We launched our firm, Veridian Designs, 2 years after graduation. The first few years were a golden blur. We landed a boutique hotel, the Arbor, and celebrated with a bottle of Glenfiddich 18 that cost more than our rent. We spent nights at a 24-hour diner, sketching on placemats, arguing about roof lines and window placements, our energy a closed circuit of creation. But slowly, the balance shifted. I was the one pulling the all-nighters to meet deadlines for permit applications and engineering reviews. Vincent was the one taking clients to 5-star restaurants. His expense reports a litany of tasting menus and rare wines. Our firm's Instagram feed became the Vincent Gallo Show, featuring him, laughing on site, pointing at blueprints that my hands had drawn. He started saying my firm in interviews with design blogs. He's the face, I told myself. It's good for business. The discovery was an accident. I was searching our shared server for an old invoice, and my search query pulled up a file from a folder I'd never seen before, vSolo. My heart went cold. Inside was a parallel world. A separate set of accounting books, a pitch deck for a new company, Veridian Concepts, and the architectural drawings for our passion project, the Helios Tower, a net-zero skyscraper we'd been developing for a year. My name, my draftsman marks, my entire contribution had been digitally scrubbed. The file metadata showed it had been happening for 6 months. I didn't confront him. The anger was a hot, bright thing, but I packed it down into a dense, cold point of focus. For the next 8 weeks, I became a quiet strategist. I hired a forensic accountant, a sharp woman named Ms. Yarrow. I installed monitoring software on my own workstation, tracking every change and access log on the server. The betrayal widened with every file I uncovered. Vincent wasn't just stealing our shared work. He was systematically siphoning funds. He'd set up a shell corporation and was billing our clients for vision consulting fees, pocketing the money. The total came to $87,450. The breaking point came not in our office, but in the sterile, glass-walled conference room of Summit Ventures. I'd found an email confirming Vincent's pitch meeting for the Helios Tower, a meeting he was taking alone. I showed up 10 minutes before it started, my portfolio in hand. The investors, including a partner named Zara whose expression could cut glass, looked on as Vincent saw me. His face cycled from shock to annoyance to a mask of pity. Theo, I'm sorry you found out this way, but you need to understand, he said, his voice low and condescending. You're a brilliant draftsman, a technician. But you lack vision. You're the engine, I'm the driver. This project needs one voice, one face, and that face has to be mine. I froze, not with hurt but with a sudden, chilling clarity. In that moment the entire plan locked into place in my mind. As he turned to start his presentation, my eyes caught a tiny, overlooked detail on his first slide, a nearly invisible glyph in the bottom right corner. It was a digital watermark I'd designed, a stylized compass rose that I embedded in all our final drafts as a signature of our partnership. He had no idea it was there, and he had just given me my endgame. My first call was to Ms. Zhang, a litigator whose reputation preceded her. She was precise, expensive, and utterly ruthless. I took out a $40,000 line of credit against my condo to retain her. For the next 5 months, we worked in secret. Ms. Zhang advised complete silence. Let him build his fraudulent empire on a foundation of sand, she said. We assembled our arsenal. The server logs showing I was the original creator of every single Helios file, timestamped and authenticated. The forensic accountant's report, tracing all $87,450 to Vincent's Shell Corporation. A sworn affidavit from a junior designer who had seen Vincent copy-pasting my CAD files into a new template. Dozens of emails where Vincent explicitly claimed sole authorship to investors and contractors. The most ironic piece of evidence came from our very first client, the owner of the Arbor Hotel. He called me confused, asking about a strange consulting invoice from a company called Viridian Concepts. He became our star witness. Ms. Zhang laid the legal traps. We filed for an ex parte injunction to freeze the assets of both Viridian Designs and Viridian Concepts, but we asked the judge to seal it for 72 hours. The decoy was the Metropolis Architecture Guild Awards. We knew Vincent had been nominated. We let him campaign for it. We let him win. We wanted him on that stage at his highest point to make the fall as far as possible. At the gala after his speech, he floated off the stage, bathed in applause. I intercepted him on his way to the VIP lounge. "Congratulations, Vincent. You must be incredibly proud of your work." His smile was pure arrogance. "Theo, I am. It's what happens when you're not afraid to lead." He started to brush past me, but then he saw Ms. Zhang step forward, a process server at her side. She handed him a thick, ribbon-bound document. "Mr. Gallo, you've been served," she said, her voice calm and clear. His smile vanished as he read the cover sheet: civil fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, intellectual property theft. Then the second wave. I had arranged with the event organizers for a special tribute to the winner. The massive screen behind the stage, which had been showing Vincent's face, flickered. It switched to a screen recording. Showed my original Helios CAD file, my name and the 2021 creation date clearly visible in the properties. Then the cursor zoomed in, closer and closer on the tiny, elegant Compass Rose watermark in the corner. The image held for a moment, then cross-faded to still from the presentation Vincent had just given to the investors, with the same watermark circled in brilliant red. A quiet wave of murmurs washed over the ballroom. Vincent stared at the screen, his face ashen. He dropped the heavy crystal award. It shattered on the marble floor with a sound that seemed to echo in the sudden silence. He looked at me, his mask of charisma gone, leaving only hollow panic. "It was never about the sky, Vincent," I said quietly. "It was always about the foundation." The next 24 hours were a storm of calls from industry magazines and texts from shocked colleagues. The injunction hit Vincent's accounts like a guillotine. Faced with irrefutable evidence and the threat of criminal charges, he settled. The judgment was for $150,000 in damages and the complete dissolution of our company, with full ownership of all intellectual property, including the Helios project, reverting to me. 6 months later, a former colleague sent me a photo. It was Vincent, standing in a muddy lot surrounded by identical, half-built houses. He was a project manager for a cut-rate suburban developer, holding a generic blueprint, his designer suit replaced by a cheap, fluorescent yellow safety vest. The visionary was building beige boxes. I rebranded my firm to Helios Collaborative. My new office is smaller, but it's filled with sunlight. The junior designer who testified for me is now my lead associate. There's a quiet hum of productive peace here that I'd forgotten was possible. I learned I wasn't just the engine. I had the vision all along and, more importantly, the integrity to build it right. Last week, my new partner and I were looking over the final renderings for a community library. She gestured to the complex, soaring roofline. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "It's ambitious." I smiled. "I handle the foundation. I'm not afraid to touch the sky." My name was on the plans, and that was all the vision I needed.